UN General Assembly backs Palestinian bid to become member. Canada contributes $76 million to boost Ukraine air defense. Good afternoon and Salam Malaysia Madani. I'm Jessica Lee and you're watching World Today. An Israeli ground attack in Gaza's Rafah would lead to an epic humanitarian disaster. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres warned on Friday after negotiators left truce talks in Cairo without a deal. Now, according to the Palestinian Health Ministry, Israel's offensive has killed nearly 35,000 people in Gaza, mostly women and children.
The situation in Rafah is on a knife's edge as airstrikes continue throughout southern Gaza. Over 1 million Palestinians, half of whom are children, have crowded in the Rafah governorate for shelter. We are actively engaged with all involved for the resumption of the entry of life-saving supplies, including desperately needed fuel, through Rafah and Kerem Shalom crossings. And of course, what happens in Gaza has profound repercussions in the occupied West Bank, where we see a deeply disturbing spike in settler violence, excessive use of force by the Israeli Defense Force, demolitions and evictions.
Recently, US President Joe Biden vowed in an interview to cut off artillery shells and other weapons for Israel if a full-scale offensive into the city goes ahead. It was the first time Biden raised the ultimate US leverage over Israel, military aid totaling $3 billion a year after repeated appeals for Israel to stay out of Rafah. The United Nations General Assembly on Friday backed a Palestinian bid to become a full UN member by recognizing it as qualified to join and recommending the UN Security Council reconsider the matter favorably. The vote by the 193-member General Assembly was a global survey of support for the Palestinian bid to become a full UN member. The move that could effectively recognize a Palestinian state after the United States vetoed it in the UN Security Council last month. The Assembly adopted a resolution on Friday with 143 votes in favor and 9 against, including the US and Israel, while 25 countries abstained. It does not give the Palestinians full UN membership, but simply recognizes them as qualified to join. The General Assembly resolution determines that the state of Palestine should therefore be admitted to membership, and it recommends that the Security Council reconsider the matter favorably. Meanwhile, truck drivers stuck at Egypt's border with Gaza say the food they are taking to the Palestinian enclave could spoil as they wait, exacerbating a hunger crisis among Gazans as the war rages on. Humanitarian workers sounded the alarm this week over the closure of both the Rafah crossing with Egypt and the Kerem Shalom crossing between Israel and Gaza for aid and the people. Dwindling food and fuel stocks could force aid operations to grind to a halt within days in Gaza, as vital crossings remain shut, forcing hospitals to close down and leading to more malnutrition.
قفلة المعبر غلط على العربيات دي كلها لأن ده براد ده تبريد يعني المكنة العطلة بتديش انذار ممكن المكنة تعطل البضاعة كلها باظت لا تعرف لا تصلح لا هنا حد يصلح لك ولا هنا حد يعمل لك حاجه ترجع تشيلنا البضاعه.
المساعدات اللي بتدخل من خلال المعبر سواء معبر رفح او معبر كرم ابو سالم يعني دي تقريبا انت بتمد شريان الحياه للناس اللي موجوده هناك. مفيش سبيل للحياه اصلا ومفيش مجال ان الناس دي تقدر تعيش بدون دخول المساعدات بشكل يومي. يعني هم حتى المخازن والاماكن اللوجستيه اللي يقدروا يخزنوا فيها مساعدات غير متوفره. ده بالاضافه لان اصلا يعني العقبات والامور اللي او التعقيدات اللي كانت بتحصل من الجانب الاخر لدخول المساعدات ده كان بيأثر على ان ما فيش يعتبر مخزون اساسا.
Now, Britain's economy grew by the most in nearly 3 years in the first quarter of 2024, ending the shallow recession it entered in the second half of last year. The positive development could translate into a slight boost to Prime Minister Rishi Sunak ahead of an election. The Office for National Statistics said gross domestic product expanded by 0.6% in the 3 months to March, the strongest growth since the fourth quarter of 2021 when it rose by 1.5%. The data was welcomed by Sunak, who said the country has been through difficult years, but things are starting to feel better.
That after undoubtedly a difficult couple of years that the country has had with COVID, Ukraine, and everything else in between, that actually now things are starting to feel better.
The opposition Labour Party, which has a large lead in opinion polls, accused Sunak and Finance Minister Jeremy Hunt of being out of touch. Rachel Reeves, who hopes to succeed Hunt as Finance Minister after an election expected later this year, said the figures do not warrant Sunak and Hunt's victory lap. Now, Canada will contribute 76 million Canadian dollars to a German-led initiative that aims to quickly source and deliver air defense systems to Ukraine to fend off Russian attacks. Canadian Defense Minister Bill Blair made the announcement on Friday during a visit by German counterpart Boris Pistorius. Berlin launched the initiative last month, citing increased Russian strikes. Since Russia invaded Ukraine in February 2022, Canada has committed over 14 billion Canadian dollars in total support for Ukraine, including 4 billion in military assistance. At the same time, the United States is preparing a $400 million military package for Ukraine, as the U.S. returns to a regular pace of supplying weapons to Kiev after the passage of a $95 billion bill. The Ukraine aid package includes artillery, munitions for NASAM's air defenses, anti-tank munitions, armored vehicles, and small arms that can immediately be put to use on the battlefield. Around 90 people were injured after a passenger train hit an empty boxcar and derailed in Argentina's capital, Buenos Aires, on Friday. Now, according to authorities, the train was on its way from Buenos Aires to the northern suburbs when it derailed around 10:30 a.m. local time on a bridge in the trendy neighborhood of Palermo. Authorities said it was not immediately clear why the empty boxcar had been on the rails, but that they were investigating. Buenos Aires Mayor Jorge Macri said from the crash site that there is not enough information about the mechanics of this accident. Dozens of injured were treated at the scene, and 30 people were taken to hospitals in moderate to serious condition, at least 2 by helicopter with chest trauma and broken bones. Alberto Crescenti, director of the city's emergency service, said rescuers with police dogs had helped 90 people trapped in the train's wreckage, lowering some from the highway overpass by rope. Dazed passengers staggering out of the derailed boxcars told local media the train had stopped on the bridge for several minutes before starting up again and slamming violently into the other train, jolting passengers and veering off the rails in a jumble of sparks and smoke. Officials at the Argentine Rail Authority, Trenes Argentinos, said services on the popular rail line had been suspended. Coming up next, North Korea to upgrade army artillery combat capabilities. Now, North Korea will equip its military with a new 240mm multiple rocket launcher starting this year, adding a significant change for the Army's artillery combat capabilities. Now, leader Kim Jong-un oversaw a live-fire test of the technically updated rocket system. The images released by state media showed leader Kim conversing with military officials during an inspection of the launcher, as well as what appeared to be live fire test of the system. The updated rocket launcher will be deployed to units of the Korean People's Army as replacement equipment from 2024 to 2026. The announcement comes as analysts say the nuclear-armed North could be testing and ramping up production of artillery and cruise missiles before sending them to Russia for use in Ukraine. The largely isolated country has recently bolstered military ties with Russia. Pyongyang thanked Moscow last month for using its UN Security Council veto to block the renewal of a panel of UN experts that monitored international weapons sanctions on Kim's regime. In the context of the ongoing conflict in Ukraine, Pyongyang has indirectly verified the performance of its existing weapons by supplying them to Russia. The toll from deadly flash flooding that ripped through northern Afghanistan on Friday rose to 62 people, mainly women and children, and officials said in a country highly vulnerable to climate change. A disaster management official in the northern province of Baghlan said heavy seasonal rain sparked the flooding and residents were unprepared for the sudden rush of water. Hayatullah Hamdad, the head of the Provincial Natural Disaster Management Department, said the death toll would probably increase, adding that light rain had continued into the night in multiple districts of the province. Hamdad also said emergency personnel were searching for any possible victims under the mud and rubble with the help of security forces from the National Army and police. In addition, he said dozens of tents, blankets and food were also provided to those who lost their homes. Since mid-April, flash flooding and other floods have left about 100 people dead in 10 of Afghanistan's provinces, with no region entirely spared. Now, farmland has been swamped in a country where 80% of the more than 40 million people depend on agriculture to survive. Rains on Friday also caused heavy damages in northeastern Badakhshan province and central Gore province. Peruvian police on Friday arrested the brother of President Dina Boluarte over his alleged involvement in a graft scheme in which officials were appointed in exchange for bribes. Now, the probe comes just weeks after the embattled president was engulfed in a scandal over her use of Rolex watches and other luxury jewelry, which she said had been a loan from a friend. The prosecution wrote on X that Nicanor Boluarte, 64, the president's older brother, was arrested alongside others who are being investigated for the crimes of criminal organization and influence peddling. He is accused of leading a corruption network that appointed prefects and sub-prefects in exchange for economic gifts. The officials serve as representatives of the government in different regions of the country and are appointed directly by the president and the interior minister. According to the prosecution, the appointed officials recruited affiliates to register a new political party, which would be headed by Nicanor Boluarte. Now, one of the president's lawyers and 6 other people were arrested in connection with the probe. President Dina Boluarte has approval ratings hovering around 10% and has had a torrid time in office since taking over in 2022 from Pedro Castillo. Uruguay is trying to cope with the ravages of heavy rains that have battered the nation and displaced more than 2,000 people. The governor of Treinta Juarez, one of the departments most affected by the rains, Mario Silveira, described the situation in the department as serious but under control. The rising water damaged the houses and belongings of the inhabitants of the town. Now, some residents decided to go to shelters while others stayed at their homes to avoid robberies. The National Emergency System warned that such phenomena could increase in frequency and called for climate change to be taken seriously. The rains have left 2,184 people displaced, 553 evacuated, and 1,650 self-evacuated in the country. Up next in sports, Mbappe officially announces he will be leaving PSG. France striker Kylian Mbappe says he will leave Paris Saint-Germain at the end of the season. Mbappe, 25, announced the decision in a video released on his social media external accounts. Mbappe said this is his last year at Paris Saint-Germain and he would not extend his contract, adding that his adventure with the club would come to an end in a few weeks. Mbappe's contract with PSG expires in June, and it was reported that in February he has agreed a deal to join Real Madrid in the summer. The World Cup winner in PSG's record goal scorer with 255 goals and would play his final home game at the Parc des Princes against Toulouse in Ligue A on Sunday. After that, PSG have away fixtures at Nice on the 15th of May and Metz on the 19th of May before the French Cup final against Lyon at the Stade Pierre-Mauroy in Lille on the 25th of May. Paris-born Mbappe, who joined PSG from Monaco for £165.7 million in August 2017, said the club helped grow him as a player and as a man as well. It was widely reported that Mbappe is set to sign a 5-year deal with Real. He's set to earn £12.8 million a season, plus a £128 million sign-on bonus to be paid over 5 years. He will keep a percentage of his image rights. And still football, the English Premier League. Everton have withdrawn their appeal against a 2-point deduction for a breach of the league's Profitability and Sustainability Rules, or PSR, with the team now safe from relegation. Now, the penalty was imposed last month and was Everton's second deduction this season. The Merseyside club were deducted 10 points in November for another breach, although that was reduced to 6 on appeal in February. As a result, Everton were docked 8 points in total and were in danger of being relegated at one stage of the season. However, Sean Dyche's side picked up 14 points from their last 7 matches to sit in 15th place, 11 points clear of the relegation zone with 2 games left in the season. The second points deduction was for a breach of PSR for the accounting period ending June 2023, with the league saying the club admitted to a breach of £16.6 million. The first deduction was over their finances in the 2020-2021 season, where their PSR calculation for the relevant period resulted in a loss of £124.5 million. That amount exceeded the threshold of £105 million permitted under the PSRs. Now, with 2 games remaining in their quest for a first Premier League title in 20 years, Arsenal are embroiled in a neck-and-neck battle with holders Manchester City. Manager Mikel Arteta said their current position is one he would gladly have taken when the season kicked off.
My brain always took me to the place where we are lived in the Premier League. That's what my brain is doing at the moment. So I just follow my brain and my gut, and this is how I feel. And this is as well the way that I want everybody to think. And hopefully we can achieve it.
Arteta's men, who travelled to play struggling Manchester United on Sunday, are a point ahead of City at the top of the table, but need some help from Fulham if they are to stay there. Now, City have a game in hand and will climb past the Gunners if they win at Fulham on Sunday. Arsenal are heavy favourites to win at Old Trafford, although Arteta has injury doubts about winger Bukayo Saka and defender Takehiro Tomiyasu, saying they would be during Saturday's training session. The Gunners have struggled at Old Trafford, winning just 1 of their past 16 games there with 10 defeats. However, 8th place United have been hit by injuries and were clobbered 4-0 at Crystal Palace on Monday. Meanwhile, Chelsea manager Mauricio Pochettino said it would not be the end of the world if he left the Premier League club at the end of the season. Now, the former Tottenham boss took over at Stamford Bridge in July and has overseen a tumultuous season, with Chelsea improving in recent weeks to be in contention for a European spot. Chelsea are 7th in the standings on 54 points, 2 points behind Newcastle, and play Nottingham Forest at the City Ground tonight. Now, speaking before the match, Pochettino made it clear he wasn't unhappy at Chelsea and his future plans would depend on the owners, sporting director and his coaching staff all being in agreement.
If we are happy, perfect. But it's not only if the owner are happy or the sporting director are happy. We are happy. You need to ask also, because if maybe we said, look, maybe we are not happy, and then we assess the situation, and maybe we are not happy and we need to split. But it's not going to be the first time that the coaching staff decide on the end of the season not to keep going. But understand that always is in the opposite way. That always is the owners or the sporting director.
Let's have a look at rally. Defending WRC champion Kalle Rovanperä leapt to the lead of the Rally Portugal in Friday's afternoon stages after trailing in his Toyota Gazoo racing teammate Takamoto Katsuta in the morning session. Now, the Finnish driver dominated the afternoon session, winning all 4 stages to climb to first place in the overall standings, with Toyota claiming the top 3 spots in the classifications. There were 5 different stage winners, but it was Rovanperä who held the initiative, with the Finn falling a 5th place in the day's opening stage, with top 3 times in the remaining 7 tests. Rovanperä leads second place Sebastian Ogier by 1 second, with Katsuta sitting 4.7 seconds off the leader. Hyundai's Ort Tanak and Daniel Sordo finished the day in 4th and 5th place respectively, with Tanak just 5.4 seconds off Rovanperä and Sordo trailing by 17.9 seconds. Rovanperä is the 2-time and reigning FIA World Rally champion, but the 23-year-old Finn's decision to run only a limited schedule in 2024 meant he would start 5th on the road in Portugal based on his current championship position. The 4 drivers above him in WRC points would start ahead of him on the road, effectively sweeping the dusty, rock-strewn stages for Rovanperä. In cycling, race favourite Tadej Pogačar produced an individual time trial masterclass to win stage 7 of the Giro d'Italia on Friday, crushing the opposition on the 40.6-kilometre route from Foligno to Perugia after Filippo Ganna had set the pace. Ineos Grenadiers Italian rider Ganna clocked 52 minutes, 1 second and looked set to win the stage when Pogačar found himself behind after the second intermediate checkpoint, but the Slovenian made up time on the brutal climb to the finish line. Pogačar crossed the line at 51 minutes, 44 seconds, punching the air as he went 17 seconds faster than the resigned-looking Ganna to extend his overall lead and retain the Maglia Rosa. His second stage victory of his Giro d'Italia debut was a huge statement in the general classification battle, in which he extended his advantage from 46 seconds on Thursday to 2 minutes and 36 seconds heading into stage 8. It was a punishing day for Ineos Grenadiers rider Geraint Thomas, who slipped down to 3rd in the standings, 10 seconds second place behind Danny Martinez. Martinez finished 8th on the day, and he and the other general classification contenders will have to try and bounce back on Saturday in the 152-kilometre stage from Spoleto to Prati di Tivo, a tough route featuring 3,850 metres of climbing. Curiosities can be found in all sorts of places. High-tech laser exhibits in museums and military machines resting underwater. Let's take a look at the world around us in our Offbeat segment. Mercer Labs Museum of Art of Technology is a 36,000 square foot space in downtown Manhattan featuring 15 breathtaking exhibitions called Limitless, inviting guests to immerse themselves in art, sound, and technology. One exhibit showcases a 16K laser projection of a bird in flight, zooming past visitors as they are engulfed in a hollow plot sound system that's the equivalent of 26 surround sound theaters.
This exhibition is for the people. It's for everybody. There's no difference between one person to another. Everybody's equal. Everybody's the same. Everybody deserves a chance and be in a space and give hopes and give inspiration and give a sense of wonder.
Another spectacular exhibit uses volumetric lighting technology to create a stunning display of luminescent particles seemingly suspended in infinite space. This installation, the largest of its kind, integrates 507,000 LED neuron microchips. Now, visitors also have the opportunity to engage with several interactive exhibits, including sliding into a ball pond and an installation where drawn characters come to life within an ecosystem.
Phase 2 is to make it more like a system. We actually take care of every character.
Military tanks, a helicopter, and an armored vehicle are just some of the items that divers can swim around and see, resting on the seabed near the Jordanian city of Aqaba in the country's first underwater military museum. Inaugurated in 2019, the museum was created with the hope that the underwater structures will enhance the environment for marine life, encouraging more diving enthusiasts. The museum also hopes to relieve the pressure on natural reefs by drawing visitors away from those sites. A total of 19 military vehicles and machines are submerged in the sea at different depths. Now, some have landed at 15 to 20 meters below the surface, while other objects can be found deeper at 20 to 30 meters. Now, this allows the city's visitors to enjoy their sight-by-glass-bottom boat, snorkeling and diving. The Aqaba seabed is also home to a C-130 Hercules jet sunk in 2018, as well as a tank and shipwrecked which were submerged in the late 90s. Now, these have become popular diving sites with rich coral reefs and an active marine life. And that's it for World Today. In our top story, UN General Assembly backs Palestinian bid to become member. I'm Jessica Lee. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Thank you for watching. RTM, teman setia Anda.